Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series, the Infinity Saga. This is Odin, the Allfather himself, from the first Thor movie. So I'm very excited to pick this up. So big shout out to my buddy Anthony SpawnXD209 on Instagram. He found one at his local Target, or at the Target he was in at the time, and he hooked me up with it. I found a Batman for him. He found this Odin for me, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Infinity Saga packaging is the same that we've seen with all the other figures, so really awesome artwork here on the side. Collage of all the different characters throughout the MCU. On the other side is there. Here on the back we get a picture of the poster from the first Thor movie. The bio reads, "The King of Asgard, protector of the Nine Realms, and father of Thor, Odin has learned to appreciate peace over the centuries." Because we come to find out in Thor Ragnarok that he was kind of a bit of an asshole, wasn't he? So there he is. I will do a comparison with first Thor movie Loki, which this is technically Avengers movie Loki. But we're going to go with it. I think it's going to be close enough. And then the official first Thor movie figure, as you can see here, which is not a very good figure, which I can't even get to stand up right now because that cape is so long and kind of drags on the floor. Is he going to stand? He's not going to stand. I can't get him to stand, but I will do side-by-side comparisons. And then I will also, of course, with the new Thor, see how he looks side-by-side there as I just drop the figures because I can't get them to stand. And of course the Odin Allfather Build-A-Figure back a few years ago around the time Age of Ultron came out. This was the first wave for that movie. The Hulkbuster was the next wave, I believe it was. So we'll do a comparison there. So pretty cool. Can't wait. Let's get this thing out of the box. Okay, here is Odin out of the package. I actually said Thodin off camera. I had to change that clip because I was thinking Thor and Odin and Thodin. But here's Odin out of the package. I like this figure. I'm very happy that we got an Odin figure. However, there's some things that I think are really weird about the figure and that I don't think are all that great. He has a hard time standing, apparently. Normally, that's really not an issue, but I guess just kind of the way I have his staff kind of in there. And, the cape does weigh down a little bit. Now he's kind of angled and leaning forward, but does look pretty good. A couple of weird things though, the helmet, which looks really cool, I wish would have been a little bit more of a shiny gold as opposed to a darker gold color. That's a little bit of a gripe of mine. And then the helmet is removable, which is pretty awesome enough, but to do that, the hair had to be the way they molded and sculpted the hair was really, really thin and stuff. Which is okay, I guess, but we get this other head sculpt that just, is very similar, but they did the hair bigger to where he wouldn't have the helmet. So if we were going to have the two different looks, why not just do the helmet as part of the head? But I guess then we can also just have this look. It just makes the top of his head look a little bit small, in my opinion, but still really cool. In terms of accessories, we have this staff right here, which looks really good. It's sculpted nicely. There's some really cool details in there. It is the same gold plastic color of his helmet, which I think, again, would have preferred to be painted gold, like a nice metallic gold color. Would have been really, really nice. It would have been awesome if they did something like that. And we know that they can do gold plastic. I know that, like this Iron Man figure, it's a different type of plastic. It's harder plastic. But they can do gold. They just didn't really do it. It's not a shiny gold, which in the movie, I believe it was a shiny gold. We have interchangeable hands as well. So he has open holding hands out of the package. And then he has a fist for his right hand and because I dropped it, it's an open hand like this. And I don't know what exactly that's going to be for. So that's kind of interesting. And then, of course, the interchangeable head. So let's zoom in, take a closer look at the figure and some of those details. Then we'll get into the articulation and the comparisons, all that good stuff. So I want to show you guys the gold staff. Again, the sculpted details are really, really nice in there. Going all the way throughout the staff. But I really, really like the way it looks. And it didn't come out warped at all. So right out of the package, perfectly straight, which is really cool. So now let's look at Odin. Okay, so first let's take a look at Odin. I'm holding on to the figure because it's a major pain in the ass to get this guy to stand up. God damn. It was just frustrating doing it. So before I get into the articulation, he has these ball joint ankles. So those ankles peg into the legs. They're not part of the leg. It's a separate piece. So it gives you a swivel at the ankle, and because of those balls, any figure that has those ankles that are like that have always been a pain in the ass for me to get to stand. And I'm trying to think, Gwenpool had them. I think the Ranger Slayer Power Rangers figure even had them. And I know there's more, and I'm not going to be able to think of them at the time, but they're just a super pain in the ass that just makes it to where this freaking figure doesn't want to stand. Anyway, looking up close at the helmet is awesome. I just wish would have been a gold, shiny gold color as opposed to the dull gold plastic color. It's sculpted nice. It's pretty soft. You know, it might get warped a little bit. You know, careful of the horns. Like maybe those could break. But it is removable. I don't think I knew that prior to. I think I had seen some pictures and stuff recently, and that's how I knew. But when the figure was first announced, I don't think I knew that the helmet was removable. But again, looks really cool. Now, in terms of the Anthony Hopkins likeness, I think it's semi there. So certain angles, I think it's going to look good, but not every angle do I think it actually looks like Anthony Hopkins, unfortunately. And I think, you know, a lot of people are looking at like that old guy in the memes, whatever the meme is called. This head sculpt, you know, because of the smile, kind of really looks like that, and not as so much Odin or Anthony Hopkins, but there's some likeness there. Hasbro has definitely done better. This is just not their best work. However, when you look at the first Thor movie figures, for the first Thor movie, and then those movie figures, this is the best out of them. Although the Loki one, even though it's an Avengers figure, does look pretty good. But there is the one head sculpt, and that looks pretty good. Another thing here is I wish the eye patch would have been a nice bright gold. It's kind of a very dull gold color that I don't think really matches and isn't painted so well, because you can see some of the flesh tone going over it, so that kind of sucks. The helmet hides that a little bit because it distracts from it, but should be better. But now looking at these two head sculpts side by side, you can see what I was talking about with the hair, where it's really squeezed down and just looks a little off in my opinion. But there we go. And again, the facial expressions are very similar. So we're going to pop this head off. The neck is on a dumbbell joint. The neck is a separate piece in there, by the way. We're going to pop this head on there. And it sits on there nicely, but because the hair is a little bit longer, it kind of really pushes into that cape. And then we have there the Anthony Hopkins Odin right there. There are some parts of the movie where he isn't wearing the helmet, so this works out really well. I think the other head sculpt actually looks like Anthony Hopkins more than this one, which kind of sucks. And then with this one, you really can't put the helmet on there. I mean, you can, but it doesn't fit on there nicely. Looks kind of funky. It's not really made to do that. But looking at the details throughout the rest of the figure, they look really good. The paint lines are pretty clean for the most part. Looks like maybe not so much there, but I don't know if that's supposed to be like a rustic type look or design to it. I'm going to chalk it up to bad QC on some of the paint hitting the marks. Hopefully when you guys get yours, the paint looks a little bit better on there. Looking at some of the details, all looks really good. Really good there. One thing that I really don't like, and this is another complaint of mine, is the torso. So they went with the ball joint torso instead of like a diaphragm joint on top of, you know, a lower torso piece. It's just a ball joint waist, and it just looks funky because it comes in much smaller right here. So it looks like this piece here is just huge. It just looks a little off, and I wish they would have gone the diaphragm joint route. Similar to like this Thor figure, where it just blends in nicely. Yes, you may not get a crazy amount of motion and range of articulation in it, but you know, I mean, you're not going to get that so much in this guy like this either. But it is what it is. Unfortunately, we get these brown pants there going into the boots. We get a little bit of silver on these boots and these crappy ass ankles there. One thing to note on the cape, it's a super bright red and it's super soft and pliable. Like all other cape figures, it's like hard and you can't really move around too much. This thing moves around and squeezes just kind of all crazy like. So which is cool, but you know, because of the cape, he's very back heavy, and because of the trash ankles, he's just going to do that. So that sucks. But anyway, let's see his articulation. Surprisingly, I just kind of set him down and he's miraculously standing on his own, which I know I'm complaining a lot about, but it just kind of sucks. He's got a beard. That beard is not going to allow him to look down, unfortunately. He's got longer hair. That hair is not going to get him to look up, unfortunately. So he can look straight out. He can turn his head. He can do some pivot going on in there, and then that neck itself can move. And then with the dumbbell joint, you get some swivel and rotation and pivot and stuff going on in there, but no hinge to get him to really look up or look down. The cape kind of drapes over his left shoulder a little bit, not so much the right, but because of the left shoulder, you're not going to get that arm to really go out too much, and then you can see the cape's going to kind of go along with it, which sucks. You can get the arm to go out that much. You can get it to go back, which is pretty cool, but I guess it kind of works around. And then there is a shoulder pad on there, and the shoulder pad moves nicely with the shoulder, so that is a nice touch. There is an upper bicep swivel there, but be careful. You see this armor piece right there? It's kind of soft, and as you can see, it kind of came out and got caught on the cape. So be careful with that. And it can kind of tuck in under that shoulder pad piece, but because of the draped cape, it's kind of hard to work that arm. We get a double jointed elbow, which gives you really, really nice bend at the elbow, and it is pinless, as you can see. So that's pretty cool. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. So the open holding hands do have the vertical hinge, whereas the other two hands have the horizontal hinge. We have the waist ball joint, so he can pivot to his left somewhat. He can pivot to his right somewhat. He can go back a ways, but that cape is really going to stop you from doing anything with that. He can come forward a little bit, really not a whole lot, unfortunately, and then you get the swivel at that ball joint as well. Legs go out that far apart. There, he can't kick forward that high, which is pretty good. We have an upper thigh cut in there. We have a double jointed knee that is pinless, and you get that much bend at the knee because that boot is actually going to hit right at the back of the leg. Unfortunately, there is no boot swivel, so that's why we get that ankle swivel that I hate and just really hinders the articulation. I wonder if maybe I can't even get mine to swivel all the way around. I'm wondering if that one's maybe turned around, which is stopping the articulation, but I can't hinge it down because the foot is hitting the back of the boot, but I can hinge up because of the design of the boot itself, and then you have some ankle pivot and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. So decent articulation, not a whole lot. I mean, Odin in the movies, we didn't get to see him do a whole lot. There were a couple of flashback scenes and that type of thing, but we really didn't see him do very much. He wasn't very active. All the fighting and everything was done by Thor and the Warriors 3 and Lady Sif and all of that. But, you know, he could just kind of stand there and look okay, I guess. Some size comparisons. The Thor figure is oversized, and most of the Thor figures have been. You know, only now with the new Endgame Thor do we have one that's, I think, a little bit proper size, scaled to some of the other figures and actors and characters. But then again, Odin just falls whenever because of those ball ankles. But I think he looked pretty good next to Loki. Now, I don't actually know the height of the actors. I think Tom Hiddleston's about the same height of Chris Hemsworth, isn't he? Anthony Hopkins, he might be way shorter. I honestly don't know. You would think Odin, being the Allfather, would be kind of this super imposing guy, like he's huge and everything. And in the movies, they probably made him and Thor kind of seem similar in height. I know there's a few scenes with them walking side by side, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head. But you know, the scales just don't really work, and it's so hard to tell. Why won't he just stay up? I'm not even going to edit these out. You guys are going to see how hard it is just to get him to stand. I've tried and mess with those ankles. Just can't do it, man. Okay, so this is probably way more like it. This Loki figure is probably still way undersized, especially, you know, for the actor's height. But the 6-inch figures then, when the Avengers movie line had come out, they weren't what we have today. So it's definitely underscaled, undersized. But when you look at like this Chris Hemsworth Endgame Thor and Anthony Hopkins Odin, I think the height difference is better. Not great, but better. And then we throw in Loki. And then what's really going to throw it off and just really be insane is if we were to stick Hela in here, which I know they didn't have any actual screen time together, unfortunately. But Hela just freaking outsizes all of them. Like, Hela's almost as tall as Odin's, like, horns on his helmet. It's kind of ridiculous. So this Hela now compared to the Endgame Thor is just like, what the hell? There's no way Cate Blanchett is that tall. But of course, you know, in the movie, they really wanted to make her seem taller than she really is. Okay, this is a pretty scary size comparison. Comic Odin versus the MCU Odin. And man, and while we're at it, this figure coming out in, I don't know, what was it, 2014, 2015, the quality of action figures that Hasbro now produces compared to what you know, now versus back then, it's really bad. Like shiny plastic for the arms and stuff. The paint is really weak. It's crazy to see how far Hasbro has come in terms of Marvel Legends quality and everything like that. A lot of these MCU figures were cool back then, but now, holy shit, like so much better. So I'm glad in one sense that it's been this long to get an Odin figure, but at the same time, I am disappointed ultimately in this figure. The torso is just really weird. I can't get over how odd it looks. Anthony Hopkins isn't, you know, a real huge big guy, but he's not as thin as this figure, I think, makes it seem. Or maybe I'm just thrown off. Maybe the whole thing that's throwing me off is just the weird how the torso really just gets so much smaller and skinnier, whereas this armor piece around the waist is just too big. It just looks a little funky to me. But at the end of the day, I'm pleased to have an Odin figure. But again, I am left a little bit disappointed. So just having a little bit of fun, you know, with all of their helmets off. We have Odin casting out Thor as being unworthy, and Loki's just chilling, watching like, damn, sucks for you, Thor. That's too bad. I guess my scheme and plan worked. So it's a fun addition to the collection. Again, and as disappointed as I am, still very, very happy to finally have an Odin figure. Now it's just a matter of time for Hasbro to give us the damn Warriors 3. We got Sif. That's cool. Where the hell is the Warriors 3? We need him. We need him. We need him. Okay, and there's my review. You guys let me know down in the comments below what you think of this Odin figure. Are you happy to have it, or are you left a little disappointed like I am? What do you think of the Infinity Saga figures so far? Are you an MCU movie figure Marvel Legends collector? Or are you a comic Marvel Legends collector? Let me know everything down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.